Welcome to the Veterinary Rehabilitation Podcast, where we aim to help fellow veterinary rehab therapists increase their knowledge and elevate their practice. I'm Megan Kelly.
And I'm Anae Lloyd. Together, we bring you the latest insights, research, and information in the field of veterinary rehabilitation.
This podcast is brought to you by Onlinepethealth, a leading continuing education membership for veterinary rehabilitation therapists. With Onlinepethealth, you will have access to a wide range of online resources to help you stay up to date with the latest techniques, advances, and trends in the industry.
Our podcast features in-depth conversations with leading experts in veterinary rehabilitation. They share their own experiences and knowledge to help you improve your practice. Whether you're a seasoned pro or just starting out in the field, our goal is to provide you with the tools and the insights you need to succeed.
So join us as we explore the exciting world of veterinary rehabilitation and help you take your practice to the next level. Today we're talking about nutrition with Lisa Hannaby. Now, if you're an Onlinepethealth member and you missed the 4-part webinar series, you are going to want to listen to this podcast. You can also get 25% off all Nourish training online, and you can access your discount code for this in the membership area underneath members benefit. Lisa and I chat about the link between nutrition and behavior, immunity, healing, and the microbiome, and how all of this impacts our vet rehab patients. A very quick shout out to Amanda Perryman from Canine Massage Therapy Essex. Thank you, Amanda. Thank you so much for your Facebook post about the Veterinary Rehabilitation Podcast. I'd love to gift you a limited edition mug, so please email me at meg@onlinepethealth.com. Now, if you're on Facebook, please come and join us in our online communities. We've got small animal vet rehabbers, hydro vet rehabbers, equine vet rehabbers, and the business vet rehabbers. And this is where, you guessed it, all our vet rehabbers hang out online. They share research, tips, and advice. It's a great supportive community, and we'd love to have you online there with us. Before we head over, a quick word from our sponsors, Paul Prosper. Paul Prosper believe true pet well-being demands a three-pronged approach: prevention, support, and rehabilitation. Their brands are trusted by veterinarians, universities, and rehab facilities alike. So whether you're looking to train, rehabilitate, or help your pet age gracefully, their brands like the Help 'em Up Harness, Fit Paws, Muffin's Halo, and Response System all offer effective, innovative, and proven solutions. You can learn more about how Paul Prosper can help pets age gracefully today at paulprosper.com. And you can also see the Paul Prosper crew and their brands at this year's Vet Rehab Summit on the 10th and the 11th of November. This is our annual online veterinary rehabilitation conference. We are all geared up and excited for this, so please head over to vetrehabsummit.com. You can register today. Right, over to my chat with Lisa. Hey, Lisa, thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Lisa, for the listeners, won't you tell them about yourself and basically what you do?
So I'm Lisa Hannaby. Well, I was Lisa Hannaby at the last series, but now I've since got married, so I'm Hannaby-Aird at the moment, only because I don't want to lose that sort of association. I run Nourish education and training. So initially it started off as just Nourish, and it was sort of merging psychology and nutrition. And that's because I'm a psychology graduate and a nutrition graduate. And the reason I first studied psychology, and I never really understood why we didn't cover nutrition, or we didn't talk about nutrition in psychological assessment, really. And so that was why I pursued additional nutritional study. So I spent about 10 years working with humans, and then I got really fed up with humans. And I decided that I actually just wanted to work with dogs. So I set up a home boarding business and just kind of moved away from humans for a bit to kind of figure out what I wanted to do next. So I just spent a couple of years boarding dogs, walking dogs, and I absolutely loved it. And what was really interesting was obviously after working with humans for so long, as I was sort of seeing all these dogs coming through, I started to sort of, when I was talking to owners, I was seeing very similar issues in dogs that we sort of see in humans, really. And I thought, well, are there some of these human theories that could move over and apply to dogs? And that's where I really got interested in diet, I guess, for dogs, because I was sort of looking at the foods that were on the market, and I was thinking, okay, well, we're feeding primarily the same sort of food to dogs, and what's that all about, really? And that just comes from my interest in nutrition. So yeah, it just I ended up in a bit of a rabbit hole really with nutrition, and my so I've got 4 dogs. I've got an Akita, a German Shepherd, and 2 Whippets. And my Akita, Henry, was diagnosed with hip dysplasia when he was 9 months old. So he'll be 10 in November. So I've spent a lot of his life sort of researching, how I can best support hip dysplasia. And then obviously it just all kind of tied in really. So once I got really interested in nutrition for dogs, I was kind of like, okay, well, how can I use nutrition to support his condition? And it just, I think when you want to do the best by your own pets, you get really, really interested in a topic. And then the further I got into it, the more I realized that everybody else was asking exactly the same questions. So I just continued to research, I continued to learn. And, I just, the more people I spoke to, they were looking for all the same information. And that's sort of how it all came to be, really. So I got involved in iPet Network, which is a qualification provider, but they are international actually, and they were saying the same. Practitioners are asking the same sort of questions about how we can support dogs primarily. So we looked at developing some courses around dog health. One of those was nutrition for dogs. And after delivering the iPet Level 3 diploma, again, talking to practitioners and learners, I just realised that there's still so much of a gap, and people just want to learn more all of the time. They want to support. So owners want to support the dogs the best they can, but equally practitioners working with dogs want to do the best they can by them, and they want the information to do that. So that's where it's all sort of come from, really.
Wow, it's so interesting. And, something that you said earlier about you were starting to see the same things that were happening in the dogs that you were boarding, when you were speaking to the clients as that you'd actually seen in people. Is there any example that you can give? So like a condition or something that you saw in a person and then you saw the same thing in a dog?
It was, for me, because of my work with humans, obviously, with my psychology degree. So I worked primarily with children, young people and families. So we were always looking at behaviour. And for me, that's where it really, really interested me, because we were always looking at, what was triggering certain behaviour in children and young people, and equally, supporting parents. So for me, I was sort of like, okay, well, why, when we're doing all of these assessments, are we never saying what are these children and young people eating? So for me, that's where I really got interested. And quite a lot of the time when we started to look at diet in children and young people, and we started to tweak what they were eating, so, less of the ultra processed foods, less processed sugar, and actually opting for more fruits and veggies and high fiber diet, high in antioxidants, we actually saw changes in behavior. And that was really what sort of sparked it in dogs for me, because I was seeing dogs, they were coming to stay, and if they had a less desirable food, should we say, on the cheaper side, which was brightly coloured and had lots of preservatives and additives, their behaviour was actually quite challenging. And for me, I very much saw a pattern, totally anecdotal, of course, but I saw a pattern, and it was almost like I could predict how a dog would then behave just by the bag of food that was presented. And I found that really interesting. So once I started looking into it, and then, we were looking, I was talking to dog trainers, and they were saying, okay, well, what if we suggest changing food for these dogs that are actually quite boisterous and quite problematic? And they were actually seeing improvements in the dog's behaviour from moving away from these really sort of highly, they've got all these additives and preservatives in the food, and they were seeing improvements in the behaviour. So for me, it was that behaviour link initially, and I thought, okay, well, there's something in this, and what else is going on?
Are you aware of any studies in animals or dogs around that?
So there's a lot of interesting data around aggression in dogs, and we often see when they've got an ultra processed diet and low levels of omega-3. So once you start increasing levels of omega-3 in dogs, quite often aggression levels drop in the dog. So there is quite a lot. And dog trainers, it's really difficult, isn't it? Because it's more anecdotal really. And equally, if you've got a dog that's working with a dog trainer, then you can say, well, actually you're supporting that with behavioural strategies from the dog trainer. But quite often, you know, anecdotally, we do see that there are improvements. But we also see so low levels of zinc. If dogs are testing low in zinc, then we can see quite high levels of aggression. And once we start balancing zinc levels out, then we do see a decrease in aggression. So I think because aggression is probably the most sort of the issue that's paid most attention to, people are more interested in testing that, aren't they, really? It's sort of, how do you quantify problematic behaviours in dogs? You know, any owner might see a certain behaviour as problematic, but another owner might not see that as problematic. So I think it's just easier to actually study aggression in dogs, because you can say, you know, about the foaming at the mouth, attacking, reactivity, whereas, you know, problematic, what somebody might say is quite boisterous and hyperactive behaviour, another owner might just say, well, that's just how they are. So I think it's quite difficult to quantify, but aggression is quite easy to quantify.
Yeah, I'm with you. And also, I mean, it depends on the breed, right? And it depends on the personality. So you have some dogs that are, but now that you're thinking about it, so I'm thinking, well, maybe it's not so much about the personality. Maybe it is what the parents, the pet parents, are feeding it. So one thing that you know, definitely is about the personality is Labradors. So I don't know if you've spent a lot of time with Labradors, but you know, anytime a chocolate Labrador would come into my practice, I would just be like, oh my gosh, it's going to be crazy. So you get these like black Labradors, which I think are always like meek and mild. And then in between is the golden Labradors. And then you get the chocolate Labradors, and they are just crazy. I've never, ever met a calm and meek and mild chocolate Labrador. So
I don't think I have either, actually.
Yeah, all like crazy. So you obviously, was it last year that you did your 4-part series? I can't even remember if it was last year or the year before, but it was awesome. You did a 4-part series for us. So at Online Pet Health, we have these series where we do 4 lectures 1 week apart. Was it last year?
I'm trying to think, you know, but this year has just flown. I don't know, it could have even been the year before, you know.
It could have been, yeah. But it was great. So you did 4 lectures for us. The one was sort of a general, sort of the fundamentals. Part 2 was nutrition for stressed or competitive dogs, and then nutrition for healing and immunity, and then feeding the microbiome. And it was really, really awesome. And there were so many things in there. I was like, oh, wow, you know, so thank you for that. So for those of you that are Online Pet Health members, you can just log in straight into the membership and be able to access these 4 lectures. Do you want to just give a brief rundown of what you covered over those 4 webinars?
Of course. And it was actually a really lovely series, and I had some lovely questions on the back of it. And I think that's what was really nice. We did go on a bit of a journey with that series. So we literally started off with the fundamentals of nutrition. So what actually is nutrition? So looking at micronutrients and macronutrients. So actually the nutritional needs of the dog. And actually for me, the biggest take home really, we also looked at the digestive system, because, you know, it's all well and good us thinking, okay, we're producing this perfect bowl for our dog to eat, but ultimately if the digestive system isn't actually working, then it doesn't really matter what's in that bowl, because the dog can't use those nutrients, can they? So it's actually not necessarily just, you know, always thinking, okay, well, I've got the perfect bowl, but actually, okay, well, is my dog able to digest those nutrients? So looking at, you know, the top down and going through the digestive system. So could there be anything compromising that function, really? Which then led us really nicely into the stressed and competitive dog, because we know that, you know, stress, as much as it gets a bad rap, we can have, you know, good stress and bad stress, but ultimately it is a redirection of resources. And, you know, for the chronically stressed dog, or if we've got the competition dog that does actually manifest as quite stressy, we do have that redirection. So function does move away from the digestive system. So, you know, if we have got this stressed dog, so whether it's just because actually they've they've always been quite a stressy dog, because some dogs just are like that. With the best will in the world, we could have socialized them brilliantly, but some dogs just do have those stressy tendencies. Equally, if we've got an injured dog or one that's rehabilitating, then they can be stressed from what they've been through. If it wasn't planned, there has been a trauma and they could be recovering from that. Equally, if it was planned, you then have got the stress of the recovery, because you can't explain to a dog what's happening, can you? So in terms of stress, how digestive function may be compromised in the stressed dog, but then equally how we can actually use nutrition to support the stressed dog. So that's probably one of my biggest research areas, and that's just because of I love the biology of stress, so what actually happens in the body. And if we think about all of the stress hormones that are produced to create that response, they need to exist in the body, but then they also need to be broken down to sort of taper down that stress response, and that all needs resources. So where do we get those resources from? And quite often, even if we don't want our dogs to be stressed, but if we know that they're stressed, then we could potentially feed that response just to help it move along. So we know that they're going to be stressed, so we can give them what they need to produce that response, but also we can help them taper it back down so that they have enough resources to do everything else that they need to. And the same goes with the competition dog, really. So it's balancing that stress with equally the nutrients to actually compete, to and to perform. The third one was immunity and healing. So that was really, relevant to any recovering dogs. So it was looking at the recovery response in the dog, and actually how I never like the term boost immunity, because it's that balance, isn't it? We don't want an overzealous immune response. We just want enough to do its job. So it's actually looking at how we can support healing in a dog, and if there's anything that we could include in the diet to support that process. And we also looked at inflammation. So if we can actually do anything we need inflammation because of that healing process, don't we? It needs to do its job, but equally it's about modulating it, and can we support that response so it's like Goldilocks, isn't it? We don't want too much, we don't want too little, we want just enough. So could we potentially help use diet to sort of help that response along? And then the final session was the microbiome, just because, well, I find it fascinating personally, but it's just that collection of microbes in the digestive system and all over the dog's body, really, and how it interacts with every system in the body. And particularly for vet rehabbers, looking at the gut muscle axis. So actually what goes on in the gut directly influences muscle function, and also bone density, bone structure, bone function, because we know that the microbiome does influence every system. So, not just looking at how nutrition can support the gut microbiome, but what we could potentially avoid in our dog's life to prevent any problems in the microbiome.
Yeah, thanks. I must say it was amazing for me, and it made me really, really realize what a knowledge gap that I've got in that regard. So when I saw that you'd created a course, I thought, oh, wow, this is awesome, especially for those people like me that have actually identified this is an area where I need more information. I need to learn more. So tell us about your course that you created, and where was the inspiration to create this? Because I know you have another course already. So this is obviously a different one. And can you explain the difference between the two?
Yeah, so the reason, so I've actually got 3 courses at the moment, but the one that's particularly interesting to vet rehabbers is the nutrition for musculoskeletal health. Sorry, that's my dogs. They've just heard something. So the 3 courses currently on the website. So the first one is just fundamentals, so looking briefly at micronutrients, macronutrients, and the nutritional needs of the dog. The other course is nutrition for skin health, and again that was just more because I was talking to practitioners, and they were identifying those gaps in their knowledge and saying, I just don't know enough of how we can actually use nutrition to support skin health. And then the nutrition for musculoskeletal health. And this, the purpose of the courses is not to say, okay, well, this course is going to make you a canine nutritionist. It is simply for practitioners who already work with dogs to when we're looking at supporting the dogs, we have that multimodal approach. We want to use every tool in our arsenal to support them as best we can. And it's just that acknowledgement that nutrition can actually play that role. So the course is simply, people want information, practitioners want information, but we're all incredibly busy people. And we would love to spend the hours, scoring the internet for all this information. And it was just a way to get the information in one place that practitioners can actually work through. And I'm very evidence-based, so I just try and keep on top of, as much up-to-date research as I can. So it was just a way of collating that together and saying, okay, well, this is what is currently out, these previous schools of thought, these are the current schools of thought, and this could potentially support your practice.
Nice. And so there are 3 modules to the course, right?
Yes.
So the first one is nutrients and canine health, and then the anatomy and the physiology of canine digestion, and then nutrition for canine musculoskeletal health.
Yes,
and what I was amazed about is that all the hours, it's so much information. That's my dog, by the way, shaking there, if you heard that. Yeah, so there's in total, I think it was 150 hours, which is absolutely amazing. So there's so much information there and so much guidance there, which is great.
Yeah, there is. And the reason, again, it's just to actually collate that data together for people, because if the reason of people were looking for that information, and we do always want to do the best as practitioners, don't we? So it was just getting it in that one place for them.
So what's great news is that Lisa has given Online Pet Health members 25% discount to this course. So you guys can log into the membership and you can go to the members discount area and you can find the special code to get that discount. And for those of you that are interested in the course, I will put the link to the description. Do you have a URL at hand that you could just mention if people, maybe they're driving now and they can't write it down or whatever, but maybe there's something that they could remember?
So all of the information is on my website, which is Neurish. So www.neurish.co.uk, and it's NEURISH. So it's combining neuron, as in, everything in the nervous system, and nourish with food. So so the information is there. And obviously you can drop me an email, which is lisa@neurish.co.uk, for the outlines. So yeah, I have put a course outline for the nutrition for musculoskeletal health, and in the first module it is sort of the fundamentals. The second is digestion, because I said it's a really important part, but then the third module, that's going to be the real sort of interesting part, I think. So we talk about how nutrition can support musculoskeletal health, but also we look at medications, how they work in the body, and how we can use nutrition to support detoxification of certain medications. We look at the pros and cons of different herbs in different conditions. So I'm very balanced, and I try and present evidence as best I can. So it's just about collating that information for people.
Awesome. So we have a lot of vet rehabbers that have so much knowledge that they want to share. So I'd love to ask you about, creating your course. What were the biggest challenges that you faced when putting all that information together?
I think actually the biggest challenge is just doing it, because you have this idea and you think this is, people, there is a need, people are asking for it. And you have this brilliant idea, but then it's actually just, okay, well, where do I start and how do I do this? So I think actually you've just got to, I sat with the documents on my screen for weeks and weeks and weeks until I sort of hit the launch button, and it was just a case of, you've just got to get it out there sometimes. So, and that's what's brilliant is, we live in an age of information, and so many people have got so much knowledge and experience, and everybody else can learn from that. So it's just, I think for me it's just do it.
Just do it. Yeah. And I think what happens is you think you think about it, and then it takes people so long to do it. And then eventually they do it and they wish they'd done it earlier. So
yeah. And you think it's going to take, you just think, well, I haven't got the time. But the reality is we always make time for what we want to do, don't we? So, and once you actually sit down and start and you get into the swing of it, I love writing courses and, creating that content. And I think once you're into it, you realize that, I should have done it sooner.
And the reality is that, like, let's be real. There is not many people that are going to have, well, I've got 3 weeks where I have absolutely nothing to do. Now's a good time. I'm going to sit down and create my course. Never, ever happens. So anyone and everyone out there, the majority of people that have created online courses are like just as busy, and they also don't have time. But it's really about finding the time. So I think you're right. Just do it. I mean, I must say for me, I recently created like a mini course and I just jumped in. I just committed. I said to the people, okay, here it is. You can purchase it. And then I hadn't even created it yet. I did like a beta launch, and so I had to create it. People had signed up for it. So I thought, okay, well, this is the only way that I'm actually going to do it. When somebody has said, okay, I'll pay you money for it and I'm signed up, and then I'm just going to have to create it. And
that's actually a really good idea, isn't it? Because you have to do it then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No excuses. I had 4 weeks and every week I had to release content. And so I had to do it. So that's a good way to do it.
I think as well, sometimes you almost do try and talk yourself out of it, thinking, well, people don't want to know, what I want to know, or, what value can I add? But there are so many people that do want to learn, and we can learn so much from each other, can't we?
Yeah. And I think the way that I did it as well just helps to validate. Because if people are prepared to pay you for something you haven't created yet, then, and you're telling them what they're going to get, then it sort of validates the idea, right?
Yeah.
And I suppose for you are having people all the time asking for it. So when people are asking you for the information, just do it, give it to them.
And that was, and I think that you can't be nervous about asking what people want, because ultimately they are going to be your customers, aren't they? So ask what people want to know about, and they will tell you, because people want access to that information, don't they?
It's been so awesome chatting to you, Lisa, and I'm excited to go, and I'm going to go and have a look at all the information in that course. I feel like I actually need to go over your webinar series again. So as you were talking about it, I was thinking, I need to touch up again. So I think I might go and watch that series again and touch up. But it's been great chatting to you, and congratulations on your course. And those of you that are interested, I will put all the links in the show notes.
Thank you so much.
Have an awesome day. Cheers, Lisa.
Bye-bye.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please hit the subscribe button so you get notified every time I load a new podcast. I'm here every week talking to vet rehab therapists from all over the world about all things vet rehab. A big thanks to our sponsor, Paw Prosper. Their sponsorship allows us to be able to give this podcast to you for free. Please go and check them out. You can go to pawprosper.com. Don't forget to bookmark the next Vet Rehab Summit. It's on Friday the 10th and Saturday the 11th of November. Come and be a part of the world's largest online veterinary rehabilitation conference. It's created specifically for you, the vet rehabber community. Online Pet Health members, you get VIP complimentary access to the Vet Rehab Summit. For more information and continued education for vet rehabbers, you can go to onlinepethealth.com.